You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information. You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
I said, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. I said, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. We're gonna drink a fine whiskey and smoke a really fine cigar.
All right, it is time for Happy Hour, the Man Cave Happy Hour, whiskey, cigar, spirits, the stories that go along with it. I'm Jamie Flanagan.
Hey, I'm Matt Fox. Welcome back.
And it's Tuesday, which means it's a Tasting Tuesday with Joe Louis Bourbon. Michael, thank you for, I love your background, Michael.
Hey.
I got the,
you like that?
You got the Detroit love going on, the
fist.
And,
there we go.
That's it. Yeah, Detroit loves Joe Louis. I love that. I love it. And I think we're loving Joe Louis. We're going to be talking to JoJo's. JoJo's coming by, right? Joe Louis Barrow Jr.
JoJo's coming in, but he'll be joining us in a few.
Sure. So hopefully he'll pop in because there's two people I wanted to get in a room together, and that was some of Joe Louis's family and the author of Detroit City of Champions, Charles Avison. We got him muted still, Michael. There we go. So Charles is with us, wrote the book, Detroit City of Champions, which is chronicles the amazing year, the foundation of what makes sports cities, and Detroit being one of those very, very absolute first sports cities. And it all happened back, 1935 was the year of these 33 championships. Charles, hey man, you got to unmute yourself and, welcome to the party, pal. I think we gotta.
Okay. Cool.
Hey,
there you are.
Some of this technology.
That's all right, man.
Well done.
Got it.
So
now, Charles, the Jamie said it. What is the title of the book that you wrote?
I got 3 books,
right.
And they all go by the same title: Detroit City of Champions. I call it the Detroit City of Champions trilogy.
Excellent, thank you. I just want to make sure that we get that out because folks can find these books, this series of books, this trilogy of books, out in market as well. And I just want to make sure that everyone hears that right from the get-go.
Right. I appreciate that. I forget to mention it myself sometimes. I get so caught up telling stories, I forget to actually have something to sell regarding it.
Yeah.
So it's the website.
But you're joining us. Yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
The website is DetroitCityOfChampions.com, and that's going to link you to all the sellers and ways to get your hands on the books.
Excellent.
So
exactly.
So Joe Louis.
We have shirts and we actually have shirts and hats and stickers and merchandise and stuff.
Ooh,
too.
Gear. We like gear.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have worn one for this show. I guess
I'm wearing my gear.
Joe Louis.
I forget to pitch that a lot of times, so I might as well say that from the beginning too.
Heck yeah!
I think you're going to have a big market for your hats because everybody needs them to cover up their hair that's too long.
God.
I know. I'm starting to get there too, man. I need a haircut here soon.
Wear it like this.
This is crazy. Did anybody see where I parked my DeLorean?
There you go.
It's there somewhere.
Yes, definitely hat season for sure. But so Charles, you've talked to the family. Have you talked to Joe's family at length ever when doing your research on the book and the parts about Joe Louis? Have you had access to the family?
Not for the research. I've met just family just kind of indirectly, like it's like different art shows and stuff like this. I'm not sure if I don't think I've met JoJo though. I don't think I've met him, but I've met family members from because I released the first book in 2009.
Yeah.
And then I just became a magnet for families from, I'd be doing an art show or a library talk or something. And it's me like, hey, I'm the daughter of Ace Gutowski from the 1935 Lions. And I'm like, no way. One of the great people I met was, her name is Norma Smith. And she's the daughter of Normie Smith, the goalie of the Red Wings. who was the goalie for the longest game in NHL history. And she had Normie Smith's entire scrapbook collection. He kept a scrapbook of every single article from the Detroit Red Wings for like 3 years.
Wow. When was
I spent like 8 hours. Spent like 8 hours in her house, like scanning every single scrap out of her scrapbook. It was awesome. But I've met a lot of people, but I don't think I've met JoJo yet, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Now, do you think there's any stories you might know that the family doesn't?
Ooh.
I don't know. I mean, everybody's got their different sort of areas of expertise. I mean, I'm sure that I'm looking forward to learning. I always look forward to learning more stuff. So, by no means do I know everything. Everybody's got their own their angle on different stuff. So,
yeah.
I mean,
I just didn't know if you're like, I got this tidbit that no one knows, But
yeah, I mean, I've probably got a few things. It's I've maybe come across a few things, and if I have, I'll look forward to sharing it.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about, and you can see that up in the people that have joined us live on Facebook. We appreciate that. You got to go to joelewisbourbon.com and follow Joe Louis Bourbon on Facebook, and then the Man Cave Happy Hour. Detroit City of Champions has a Facebook presence as well. So follow us on the socials. But if you're watching on Facebook, you can see Michael's photo, and he's got the fist there, the Joe Louis fist. Which is right there on Jefferson Avenue, at the base of Woodward, right outside of, why do I want to say Heinz?
It's like by one Woodward.
Heinz Park. Why the hell am I saying Heinz Park?
Heinz Park.
Hazel Park. Oh my God. I just turned into a dittering old man. Holy crap. Holy smokes. But right downtown.
And Jeff is joining us.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted to talk about the tributes to Joe Louis in and around the city, Charles, and what you know about. And then the big thing is, and the impact, I'm curious the impact on JoJo and his family, Joe Louis Arena. Right. I mean, you're going to the Joe, it's Joe Louis, and it's been part of the culture. And just part of the vernacular for a while. I mean, since the Olympia was gone, and then it was Joe Louis Arena. What impact does that have on Joe Louis's legacy now that Joe Louis Arena is just a fond memory? What do you think about that, Charles? How do you think that'll impact Joe Louis's memory, the losing of Joe Louis Arena?
Well, I mean, the thing about it is the longer we get from the subject of history, the more especially the more things that are, I guess you could say that, the less that their name is spoken, it reduces the ability for people to remember, I guess. I think that's, I mean, really that's with this, there'll always be a Joe Louis Arena, like in memory, I mean, that's something that's pretty much, I mean, Olympia Stadium has been gone for a while and people remember Olympia. So it's one of those things that the name's going to get mentioned every once in a while.
Yeah, I think folks still have like the original chairs from from Olympia, they still tote those around, so I would with Joe Louis Arena not being there, I've been there a handful of times, and you walk around, it's just, there's so much history in what that was in that building back, when the Wings made their run with, back in the 90s. Right. And then again in the 2000s, but even further back, when they were in a rebuild, and just how many people were there just to support, the local sports fan, but going there to see the history of the arena itself, and just that's what I'm going to miss is, I've been to the new arena, but something just holds something near and dear to my heart when it comes to the Joe Louis Arena.
Sure.
So I have a question for you. The Joe Louis Greenway, right? That's something that's happening, as I understand it. They're supposed to be.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So what do you know about that? Because that's I'm not in Detroit. I'm in Atlanta. And I will tell you that the equivalent of it here, which is called the Atlanta Beltline, has done more for economic development by connecting people in neighborhoods than anything. And I think that, as I understand it, it's certainly it's a place for people to enjoy outdoors and biking and walking. But it really, I don't think what maybe not everyone is focused on is how much that can become a catalyst for development, restaurants, housing, all along that.
I'm not.
I don't know too much about. Yeah.
I'm not very well versed in where it's going to be or what it's going to be. I know of the DeQuinder Cut, and there's a biking trail along it. It used to be some rail lines that they used for just moving, product as part of the manufacturing of early Detroit. Now those little rail lines were just kind of sitting dormant forever, and they never really went anywhere. They were just taking stuff from one factory to another, and so they turned it into the DeQuinder Cut, which is now just covered with murals and art and sitting places and gardens, and it's this gorgeous part of this downtown and the resurgence of downtown. Detroit is just a massive monster, and people are, oh, Detroit's making a comeback. I'm like, well, let me drop you off in a neighborhood, see if you make it home. There's some places that
there's work to be done.
They're still a little challenging. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the city. I mean, I 7 in Van Dyke. I grew up in the city proper. I was there till 93. So we were there for quite a while, and 93, that's a long time ago now, but I lived there for quite some time. So I love the city. I'm a huge supporter of the city, but people are all excited about the comeback. I'm like, well, I drive by my old neighborhood, and it's a heartbreak. And I want to see all the neighborhoods come back, and I want to see more of the good stuff happening in Detroit happen to a lot of the other places in Detroit. And I think
that greenway from an economic standpoint, a lot of little pop-ups happen there with restaurants and things of that nature. So it's really advantageous. I mean, a lot of them tend to be temporary and it's cyclical, but these little pop-ups, they show up the restaurants, little bars or cocktail scenes, and that's kind of their start to sometimes moving into a permanent residence within the city. They kind of make a name for themselves, and it's really a great way to get noticed for a restaurant, bar, cocktail bar, whatever the case may be. And that's where they start, and it really builds from there. Either they know they're going to make it or they're not. And a lot of times you see a lot of these restaurants, they'll make it and then they'll move to a permanent residence. So this is a great opportunity, and it draws families into.
And that's
Jamie.
Did we do a proper tee up for Jeff?
No, we didn't. Michael, can you?
Everyone knows who he is. Yes.
Yeah. We met Jeff last week.
Yes.
Yeah. So but he came in a little bit late to the party, which is great. And welcome back, Jeff. Really appreciate it. Jeff, tell us your story. What is your correlation with Joe Louis Bourbon, with Michael and the family there? What is that you're doing?
He's the most important man in the room right now.
Yes, please.
Not so much. So what I do is I actually work for Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits. We are the broker that actively sells Joe Louis Bourbon. So between myself and then the person I report to is our general manager, vice president of our sales division for Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits. We actively create the strategy along with JJ and Peter and Michael. We put together some strategy, what we're going to do, route to market, feet on the streets kind of thing. And we put together the plan to make Joe Louis successful in Michigan. And it's been collaborative. It's been great communication, and I think we've had a really, really nice start so far. So,
well, you guys, first of all, for the brand. I know no one's launched a brand in the middle of a global pandemic in the market, in one of the market that unfortunately is suffering the most. But what was the last thing I saw as of last Friday, Jeff? And maybe you have updated info. You guys have gotten it into 176 stores.
178 accounts, new accounts. So we started the beginning of April, last couple of days of March, and within that time frame, we're in 178 accounts. We've sold, I think, as of last Saturday or last Friday, it was like 52 cases or 48 cases or something like that.
My goodness.
For all things considered, it has been I would say successful. And I think there's a launching pad to go from this too, and just the activation that is in place to happen whenever we can make it happen. I think that while we've been successful, I think that the shoot for the moon thought process is not out of the realm of possibility, and I think we can get there.
Well, what people, we've talked about this in some earlier episodes, and I hate to keep beating the same drum, but I think, what Jeff alluded to is that this launch was really based around the timing of the Michigan State Golden Gloves tournament, which was supposed to have been this past weekend, and got canceled. And so, it was really about a place where the bourbon was going to be, available for the first time, in Grand Rapids, and also in Detroit at the Metro Detroit Golden Gloves. And then from there, it would expand. But we had to jump right into, social, digital, generating awareness directly. And, as Jeff alluded to, I mean, it's, I don't know of another brand in history that's had to do it this way, but I think it, quite frankly, will be the way a lot of brands do it moving forward.
Look, Michael, that's a really great point, because, I'm a brand manager, not just for Joe Louis Bourbon. I'm a brand manager for multiple brands. One of the things that I can tell you is that, Joe Louis Bourbon works really hard to create almost a lifestyle type brand, lifestyle type atmosphere, and really drive the brand not based on the liquid itself, but also just based on what's going on around it. And I can tell you, and I won't reference any specific brand names, but there are massive power brands out there in the world that I work in that can't figure this out. They can't figure out how to resonate with the customer from an experiential standpoint. Joe Louis came in and knocked it out of the park. It's unbelievable.
What are the things that some of your clients, what are they looking for when they are looking to partner with Joe Louis Bourbon and work with you? What are some of the things that you do extra to take care of the client? So
for us, being in Michigan the way we are, we're really kind of controlled on what we can and can't do from a legality standpoint. Okay. However, one of the things that we do, that we do that works for us is creating that experiential atmosphere, opportunity for the buyer. A lot of that comes in the form of, being at events, sponsoring events, participating in events. It's as simple as golf outings. It's as simple as, it can be as big as major events. Like the Golden Gloves event is a major event for the brand, and with exclusivity at the brand, with the brand at the event, man, that drives exposure more than anything else there. Maybe even more than the Golden Gloves event itself. So that is a huge deal. But at the same time, when Joe Louis, when I go to Michael or Peter or JJ and I said, hey, we need to participate in this golf outing because the right people are going to be there and they're going to talk about this and they're going to take it to their friends. Right. That's the way it works in Michigan, and that's the way you get a brand started. All it takes is one person in one store to get a brand off the ground. It's really funny. I mean, it's the truth though, because you can go to a store and this store will buy 3 bottles. 2 weeks later, they're buying 3 more bottles, and then all of a sudden you're off and running. And you have 5-10 stores that do that, and you have a brand.
Jamie and I, it's people power, because today, as in the past 2 hours that I've been sitting here, I've gotten 4 new people are posting, here's Joe, pictures and tagging locations. And actively helping to let everybody know where they found the product. And so that's really, that's the point of this podcast really is about, there's such an affinity for Joe Louis in Detroit, and it doesn't hurt that the product is good. But you've got to get people mobilized around it, and they are. And it's really kind of exciting to see the level of passion and excitement that people are when I found it, I got my first bottle. Right.
I love seeing that excitement. I've seen the obligatory crotch shots where people take a picture of their find as they get back into their car, hopefully not cracking it till they get home. But I've seen a couple Joe ones come across, and I'm like, hey, all right, one for the home team. I like it. But Michael, we mentioned about the Golden Gloves, and I can't wait for that event to happen. If it's postponed for the year or just postponed later.
Yeah, the boxers I can't wait for it either.
Really looking forward to that actually happening. And again, just to review that Joe Louis Bourbon, there's $1 from every bottle that goes to amateur boxing, and then some goes to the Golden Gloves. What's the breakdown on that again?
$1 from every bottle. $1 from every bottle sold is contributed to USA Boxing, which is the overall governing authority over all amateur boxing, including the Olympics, Team USA.
Right on.
They then take that money and invested in athletes, invested in programs for youth athletes. And in addition to that, Joe Louis Distilling, the parent company, is actively investing in Golden Gloves regional tournaments in the form of sponsorships and providing athletes some mentoring opportunities. Mm-hmm. And so the local chapters receive, some benefit from that as well. And that's really been, a really defining part of this brand development, right, is that, there's so much to it. There's an incredibly rich historic story that needs to be told just for new generation to understand who this man was. The second piece of it was product beyond the brand. What's in the bottle really is a good product, and it needs to represent something of integrity and all that. And then there's the commitment to the give back, the cause, and the things we're talking about, as well as then the sports marketing, which is the idea that introducing this first to people in the boxing community, almost in respect, as a sign of respect for what Joe Louis meant and did for boxing, if not all America. So it's really kind of it's been a heady experience in many ways, and it's just gratifying to see it.
From what I understand, Joe Louis and Charles, this is where you're going to come in. Hopefully, maybe you got some knowledge on this one. From what I understand, that Joe Louis won something called the silver or a silver level or the silver award, and you guys getting involved with the Golden Gloves, that level or that award was gone for a while, and they brought it back with you guys and naming it for Joe Louis. Charles, what did because Joe Louis fought in the Golden Gloves, right? And back in 33, 34, something like that. Do you have a beat on that? Do you have a beat on that part of Joe's history?
Yeah, I mean, the Gold Gloves is really how he made his. That's how how a lot of amateurs start, if not most. I forgot if it was off the top of my head if it was 1934 or in 1933. But the big thing was he won the Detroit Gold Gloves, which was huge, and then he went to Chicago for and then the big one was the Chicago Gold Gloves, and he won that, and that's what really started to propel him. That's what started really landing him. The trainers and everything to start giving him, putting money into him, because they say that when he first started, he was training on a diet of hot dogs and ice cream, and then once he started getting real professional backers, financiers, that's when they were like, no more ice cream and hot dogs. It's steak.
Damn it.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is it's a huge difference. And originally, he came up to Brewster Recreation, and so he was, so he's training in a room with like 200 other boxers. Where it's like he's just trying to get his hands on a bag to work out in. But then once it's just such such a huge difference to be able to have like your own gym and your own trainers that have been doing it for forever. So it's. That's the whole that's what really, that's what catapulted him from, the amateurism to the professional. And, of course, when you go pro is when everything starts to, we actually start to make money and all that.
By the way, JoJo has called me and texted me that he's trying to log in right now. So I don't.
Okay, cool.
At any moment he will arrive, hopefully.
That'd be cool.
Otherwise, I will call him on the phone and I'll hold up, which we've done before.
we have. I remember doing it. So the Golden Gloves really was quite the turning point for him. That's really neat that the there's a support for it, and they bring it back. Michael, do you know which award I'm talking about that you guys helped that Joe Louis helped bring back? Because Peter was talking about that.
Are you talking about the? You talking what I was talking about the other day, the silver medal?
Yeah,
for the bourbon. Or
not for the bourbon in the boxing in the Golden Glove competition itself. Peter had this story.
I don't remember what that
he
is.
was telling me about it.
Yeah, I don't. I do recall it, but it's not top of my mind.
Sure.
Obviously, we know about the Medal of Freedom,
right?
Which is the bronze medal that he was awarded posthumously, which was the original, which I have right here because I have one of the. This is what the original hang tag was, and there's about I don't know 60 cases, so maybe 300 and something bottles around Michigan that have this, but everything else has a new one, which is a square that has the champ is back. But that medal was awarded in 1981, posthumously. I can't say that. Too much bourbon.
Well, I do have a quick story. I do have a quick story about something Joe kind of did lead to, which is, I think, an interesting thing that like never gets talked about. Like never, like this is like, it's crazy how it kind of comes up in this regard because I don't think I've ever even really talked about it anywhere else. But the Joe Louis had such an impact at that time that like every kid wanted to become a boxer. Like it didn't even matter the colors, get black, white, it didn't matter. Boxing was the biggest thing, especially in Detroit. Like amateur boxing was everywhere. There was a writer that made a comment that like you walk down the street of Detroit and it was like you get kind of nervous because you see all these kids like practicing boxing with each other. They're all play boxing everywhere. And so one of the big newspapers in Detroit at the time, in addition to the big newspaper in addition to the Detroit News and the Detroit Free Press was the Detroit Times, which it's my favorite newspaper of all time. And one of the things that they did was they were always rather than just like cover the event, they would actually create their own events so that they would have the only exclusive in town to cover it. And so one of the things that they ended up creating was an amateur boxing tournament in Detroit called the Diamond Belt Buckle Tournament. And so it was like every age category, like every age, I forgot how young it started, but there was a whole, like all these different age groups. And then there was like, heavyweight, flyweight and all that going all the way down. So it was created as a wider, amateur thing it wasn't as like serious as the Gold Gloves. The Gold Gloves were, the signature event. But the Diamond Belt Buckle, I just love the idea. It's like almost like a precursor to the WWE. You get like, can you imagine winning that tournament? And, no matter what age you are, but you got a Diamond Belt Buckle that says Detroit Times, champion. You get to walk into school wearing the Diamond Belt Buckle. Like I just thought it was a really cool thing, and
that's a mark of cool. Yeah, that's cool.
That's what I mean. I would give anything. I would love. I've never seen one in person. I've always seen like newspaper photos of it. So if anybody like listening to this, or if anybody knows anybody that's got a Detroit Times Diamond Belt Buckle, from like their grandfather or something, I would love to see one in person.
So that's why we got Charles around, man. He's got these stories. He knows crap that nobody knows about. I love. I
don't know where you'd find information on that otherwhere. It's like that was straight out of the newspapers.
Yeah.
So a question for everybody. What are some of the what is the most surprising or inspirational piece of history that you learned about Joe Louis himself while you're getting ready to launch the bourbon, or partnering with Joe Louis Bourbon, or learning about the history? What are some of the most surprising or inspirational stories that you learned about Joe Louis himself? There's
too many. Well, first of all, there's the story that there's a sad, brilliant chapter of the story, which is the tax bill and the money that the U.S. Treasury went after him for. It was he was very generous, and he gave away a lot of money to charity, to people, to help people, and to the point where he may not have had the record keeping as tight as the accountants would like it. And that dogged him until the end of his days. And so, but yet he persevered, right? Yet he did whatever he had to do, which included, obviously some decisions like the Rocky Marciano fight, which ended up being a career, embarrassment. To the fact that he sucked it up and he lived in Caesar's Palace for over a decade. Right. Speaking of crappy grandpa, what's that? I'm talking about your. Here's JoJo. I'm talking about your dad. Oh God! It's about time you got here. We're tired of filling time. No, anyway, but we were just sharing stories and just you can really speak to this because you lived there. You lived in Caesar's Palace.
Yes.
Right.
You had the run of the place too, didn't you?
I did. I did. The last, he just left, actually. Gary Selzner, the president. The last time I was there, he said I was their Eloise. So.
Jojo, it's good to have you. In the room with us, we got Jeffrey, who's in charge of and Michael. They're in charge of the marketing and getting the bottles into stores around the nation and in Detroit. And also on the line with us is Charles Avison. He wrote a book called Detroit, City of Champions, and it's all about that 1935 year in Detroit, where just this swell of championships. And your dad was such a major part of that catalyst, which made Detroit the sports city and turned Detroit people into the Detroit fans and the sports fanatics that they are. I was just dying to get you and Charles in a room together because he's like such a great storyteller, and I would just hearing you share stories about being in the casino and up in the rafters and things. I just love the stories that you had to share. So I definitely wanted you guys to meet.
Hey Charles, how are you?
Hey Joe, nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you too. It's a little. I wish I was there in person, but
nobody's there in person, right? And we are
here in person.
Yeah, no, we're all.
Yeah, I know. I just we're here in Detroit,
and that's the thing. We're looking forward to doing this in person once we get to play in the reindeer games again. We are gonna get together, be it the Detroit Shipping Company or another location. We will all get together and raise a glass together in Joe's honor. So, Jojo, this is what I wanted to throw at you and ask you. Joe Louis Arena, right? They just took down Joe Louis Arena. What was it like when you heard the news that they were going to demolish that building that carried your father's name?
That's actually I guess I had mixed feelings. I had a bunch of people. The way I found out was a bunch of people contacted me on Facebook, and they all had different ideas and opinions. Quite a few of them were like, Mayor Dugan is trying to erase your father's legacy, like all this crazy stuff. And the reality is, it was the oldest arena in the league, and it served its purpose. And I had zero doubt that Detroit would find a new way or another way to honor my father, and thus the Greenway is born. So it's really just kind of like the natural cycle of life. But it was an incredible honor to have it have been built at all. And I remember when we went for the dedication. How I think it was the first time I'd ever really been anywhere where we were the complete center of attention. And I think at that time understood the impact that my father had made. Prior to that, I don't know that I really understood it.
So
So,
the
but,
other,
I mean, it's
the other standing monument in the city, one of the other standing monuments in the city, right downtown at the foot of Woodward
Fist.
there, Hart Plaza, the Fist, right? The commonly referred to as the Joe Louis Fist. So that's there. That's going to be there. I don't see that. I don't see that going away. There was how was that received?
That actually was a.
Matt, what's the background on that?
Sorry, Jamie. Well, that monument is called the Fist, right? And it's your dad's fist. But October 16th of 1986 is when they actually, looking it up here, is when it was commissioned by Sports Illustrated magazine. Was in October of 1986, and Robert Graham was the sculptor of the Fist as well. So that I almost want to dare Duggan to try to move that fist because it will not happen.
Yeah.
It really, really won't.
So
that is a prominent fixture.
The interesting thing about the Greenway too, and we talked about, Michael talked about how giving back was a big part of the story and things of that nature, and this is almost, the Greenway is almost Detroit's way of giving back to their people because for a long time, people of Detroit weren't able to walk around downtown, around by the Renaissance Center and things like that, because there just wasn't anything around. And with the Greenway going up, it goes right along the Detroit River, and it's multifaceted, and I think it's 32 miles long in totality. So it's a long process that's going to continue to get developed, but it's really giving, the citizens of Detroit and people that want to come down to Detroit as it's continuing to develop and grow, a place for people to go, a place for people to congregate when they can. And it's kind of giving back to Detroit, which embodies everything that Michael was just talking about Joe Louis. It's really, really kind of incredible that it's come full circle that way. Even though Joe Louis Arena came down, this has come right back to do the same thing. And it's really interesting how you take it and you can really bring it full circle, and how this is going to continue to evolve as Detroit continues to develop in a positive way.
Yeah. So Jojo, do you know anything? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I totally agree with that. The other thing that's really interesting about the Greenway is it will give people of all different economic backgrounds an opportunity to stay healthy and exercise. And for so long, the people who lived, for so long, people migrated outside of the city limits, and anybody with any money, they went where Whole Foods was, and they just got out. And the people that were left had very little to look forward to, and what did come, oftentimes they couldn't afford to enjoy it. I think this is something that is really going to kind of even the playing field and allow people to engage in activities that I think both my parents would have fully supported and enjoyed.
All right. So Charles, you got Jojo here. Do you have any questions for Jojo?
Well, I mean, the main thing, the thing I've always, I've read, a bunch of different books on Joe Louis, of course, I know your dad, and I'm just curious to know on a personal level, what he was like. I mean, I have a feeling I kind of know the answer to that, but this is such a rare opportunity to talk to somebody that knew him pretty well. I mean, knew him. So what was he like?
It's so funny that for me, my father was always just my father. Like I think I really had no appreciation. I remember it was my 13th birthday, and my parents, we were at this restaurant called Spanish Steps in Caesar's Palace, and I threw an absolute temper tantrum because I just wanted my family, just one night, just my family. And my mother took me by the hand and she yanked me out of the restaurant, and she gave me this don't you know your whole entire life is a result of these people? You be nice to them. And as a kid, finding patience for that was very difficult. As an adult, recognizing how much patience and love and commitment my father had to people, even the ones that didn't. I was talking to Michael last week, and I said, I don't think my father ever saw a bad human being. He saw people who learned bad qualities, but at the core of who they were, they mostly operated from a place of fear. And when they were mean, it was from a place of fear. And so he never really responded with that. He always responded with kindness, and it worked. I mean, I think that, I'm really good friends with Pete Rose's son, and we used to do baseball shows together, and people would come up to him and they would say, "Oh, your dad was such a great baseball player." I don't know that anyone ever told me that my father was a great fighter first. Like, I think they just kind of assume that I know that. They all say he was such a great human being. And for me, it's an incredible, at this point in my life, it's an incredible honor. As a young person, it was very difficult. I think that I struggled a lot with just like, how do I be who I am? And in fact, who is that? And the truth is that that's the only thing my parents ever expected of me, was to be me. And so, I think that, a lot of people like to say that, oh, the government did this to your father, and the government, if my father gave as much time and energy to those feelings as other people do, I don't know that he would have ever done anything else in his life. I think he would have just kind of like withered away into obscurity. And the truth is that we had an incredible life growing up. We had, he had his friends, he had his family, and he had the respect of the nation that I think has continued to show over and over and over again how much they love him. So I don't know. It's just, he was my father, and I'm incredibly proud to be his son.
Joe, speak to the whole food and beverage piece, right? How important that was to your dad, and because you guys are opening a restaurant. The family's
we're opening a restaurant in Detroit.
I was going to say, can we talk about that? How's the restaurant coming? Is the only thing harder than launching a bourbon brand in a pandemic would probably be opening a restaurant.
Own a restaurant.
Yeah. Listen. I have to tell you something. I'm partners in both, and I've been very lucky. I think that both my parents, not just my father, so much of our lives, the things that we remember, I think not just my family, every family, is you have all these memories that are focused around these events, and almost always there's some sort of food and drink. I can remember my father stealing bacon out of the pan in the kitchen and passing me one as my mother was trying to swat us both with a spatula. Those memories for me are probably the best. And I think that's why I really wanted to open a restaurant. That's why I really wanted to relaunch the Bourbon, because so much of our lives happen around food, the things we celebrate and also the things we commiserate and then we mourn. And to be a part of that, and to have other people be a part of our journey, I am 100% sure that the restaurant and the Bourbon both are a result of an extended family that over and over again has continued to love my father. And without them, neither one of them worked. And so I think to say we're doing it for anyone other than them would be, from where I sit, disingenuous. I mean, I talk to Michael about it a lot. I'd like to talk to Peter and JJ about it more. The whole point of doing any of this has got to be for the people my father loved and who gave him, who really gave him a life beyond his wildest dreams. A lot of people like to say that he did this and he's that, and he wasn't. He was. The government did this. The truth is that without Detroit, without boxing, without the opportunities that boxing gave, without a president at the time who held his hand up and felt his muscles and said, we're going to need muscles like these to beat Germany. Without those things and those people, my father's life would have been just another life, without any opportunity. And he never complained about it. He never saw the things he lost. He only saw the things he gained. And I think to look at it any other way is just sad.
And therein lies why there is a message to young athletes, and not just athletes, but the youth of today, who really need to learn about the man beyond the statistics, beyond the ring. And that's really what we all have an opportunity. We're doing it right now.
Yeah, I want to just tell you one thing that I don't know, that has always bothered me, and I've never really said this publicly. Every documentary that's ever been done about my father has portrayed him as not understanding the magnitude of what he was doing, that he somehow was, he was duped. Or when America entered the war, my father felt an obligation to go. It was not like he made, like somebody else made a decision for him. And when he decided to fight for Army relief, he did that knowing that maybe he didn't understand that he'd have to pay taxes on the money, but he never expected to not have to pay taxes on the money. It wasn't like the decision would have been different had someone would have said, yeah, you're going to owe taxes on this money. He would have made the very same decision. And so I guess I just say that to say that, no one should feel sorry for Joe Louis, that he never felt sorry for himself. And I think that you asked me what he was like as a father. He gave a horrible whooping. He was terrible at it.
It's a fist.
He was really bad at it. My mother used to yell at him like, "That's not a spanking." But he was definitely somebody that, as an adult, both my parents, as an adult, it's really easy to understand why people love them so much. And sometimes it's very hard to figure out a way to follow in those footsteps or how to do the next right thing, because they both seem it seemed to come so easy to them. But, you just try. But I mean, he'd be very proud of what we're doing, and he'd be very thankful to all of you for even taking the time to talk about him, because, it's been 75 years since my father was in the ring, and people are still talking about him. That's pretty amazing.
Really.
The boxers, that's true for our few and far between.
Thanks in a lot part to you, JoJo.
Yeah, I get. If I get in any more trouble, they're going to really throw me away.
Oh, I love it. So there's some people checking in on the chat. The videos are rolling. Jesse Addy, he's a country music DJ in New York City. He was a Detroit guy, and he's in New York. He chimed in on the chat room. JJ, one of the owners, is in on the chat room. He says you guys are sounding good. And Steve wants to know where we are at. We're in Detroit. Steve's a Detroiter. Marlon Brown wants to know, is it coming to Cleveland? Is Joe Louis Bourbon coming to Cleveland, and when might it be?
The answer is yes. We don't have a date.
Right. New Hampshire,
but,
New
Ohio is. We're going. Yeah. So what's happening now? Things have changed a bit because of the changing of the of boxing. So the next market is actually going to be New Hampshire, and then immediately following that Maine, and then following that Massachusetts. So end of May, it'll arrive in New England, and then can't tell you dates, but. It will go to Florida, and then it will go to Ohio and Illinois, and keep on trucking from there. Part of it is we don't know what the rescheduled calendar is going to look like for Golden Gloves yet around. So we're kind of having to go places where we know where it potentially is going to be, because again, big part of this is the cause marketing and the give back and the sports marketing launch at the tournaments. But in the light of lack of tournaments, we're doing, and we were supposed to be this month, April was supposed to be Las Vegas. Caesar's Palace. No, I don't know of another brand that could have pulled this one off. Oh, we didn't. COVID got in the way, but where this product was being brought in to Caesar's Palace to be stocked at every bar, and they wanted it at every Caesar's own casino in Las Vegas. We were going to have the Team USA Olympic boxing team come to Caesar's Palace to do an exhibition at the same time that the industry's largest conference, the Wine and Spirits Wholesale Association, their conference was this week. Actually, I just got a calendar notification before this reminding me that I had to be at the convention. It's not happening. So that was a total change. But like Joe, we get up, we shake it off.
So eventually
and we go for the knockout.
Hopefully, eventually you can get into the Caesar's Palace. So Jojo,
when Las Vegas opens again.
Yeah. So Jojo, but while you were there and while you were living there, did you ever run into Caesar? No, nothing.
Little Caesar.
Does he actually live here? Sorry.
I see what you did there.
So the funny thing is that you asked that question. When I was a kid, they used to have Caesar and Princess Fatima walking. There was like 100 of them, but I knew all of them, and I used to try and take their sword. And my mother used to get so frustrated with me. Well, why do you keep trying to take that man's sword? You're going to knock off his skirt.
That's funny.
All right. So online, the Joe Louis Bourbon, joelouisbourbon.com is it buying it online, like somebody in Cleveland, right? With the things being delayed. What's the online seller most people can access?
It's coming soon.
Okay.
At this moment, it's not there, but and Jeff, maybe you can answer to that a little bit because it is being placed in the online store that can ship.
So in Michigan, we have a retail account called Woods Fine Wine and Wholesale. It's in Grosse Pointe. They're going to be doing. They actually have it on their website right now. Peter actually just sent me an update. I think Michael, you were probably on it too, just stating that it's available. It's available for sale on their website, and they'll ship it out to you. But just to add to what Mike was saying, is one of the things that we'll probably do, and obviously nothing's for certain yet. Right. But just until this Golden Gloves gets up and running again, the best thing that we can do is get it in people's hands, let them try it, let them experience it, and that the way that we'll do that is we'll go to party stores and liquor stores and stuff like that, and we'll do samplings. That's how we'll get to people, and we're going to do what we have to do to get the brand out there, and we're going to do a little bit of guerrilla marketing, so to speak, to get the job done, but we'll get there, and it's going to work, and it's going to be a success, and it's just going to take a little longer than we expected it to. That's all.
Right on. So joelouisbourbon.com for all those updates.
joelouisbourbon.com, and there's also a page on there, Joe Louis. If you click on the homepage, it says buy, but it's joelouisbourbon.com/locations. And that is being updated weekly as soon as Jeff sends us the latest lists for Michigan. But then other states, as they get turned on, they'll all be added in there. So that's going to be an ongoing resource for people to find out. And we will be adding beyond the Michigan online. We are looking at trying to get it into some other online stores that can ship nationally. And we'll be keeping everybody abreast. There's also a new website called liquorstores.com, which anyone can go to. And that's also going to be tied in with some delivery options. And if you go to liquorstores.com now, you might notice a couple interesting things, that Joe Louis Bourbon is the category sponsor for all bourbons. And that if anyone in all of the listings for the stores in Michigan, every liquor store, there's a Joe Louis Bourbon connection there. So, and the stores that are carrying Joe Louis are getting an enhanced profile in that platform. So that's kind of cool, because that's going to be the new. If the owners of it have their way, their vision is that that's going to be the number one destination to find all things about liquor and where you can find it, and tied in with inventory and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and then to add to it real quickly, just something that we're doing from a company standpoint And as you continue to roll out into other markets within Southern Glazer's universe, they have an e-commerce website as well. And it's still developing. I mean, it's launched, it's still developing, still an evolution of growth, but it's going to be an opportunity for you to be able to buy right from the Southern Glazer's website at some point too. So they're all great opportunities, and it's all going to continue to grow.
Awesome.
Actually, a friend of the watch party popped in, and he said, "Hey, I'll sell Joe Louis bourbon in my family's restaurant. So I gotta make some connections here for you guys.
Hey, gotta have a restaurant open first.
Yeah, when it happens, yes. But bring on some more folks into the family fold. Yeah. So
excellent.
Thank you,
excellent.
You guys, thanks for another awesome Tuesday, man. Tasting Tuesdays with Joe Louis Bourbon. I love this. I look forward to it. It's Monday's just a stretch, and this is the start of my week. So thank you all for
thank you guys
hanging out. Charles, thanks for being here. Love to always.
And Joe, thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Jeff.
Jojo.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jojo, appreciate it. Looking forward to the restaurant.
You're the host.
Getting together, Jojo. Looking forward to getting together in your restaurant when that gets rolling, and we can be together, and we can have a big launch party here in Detroit for the brand. I just like a good reason to throw a party. So looking forward to seeing you guys in
Believe
person.
me, we're itching to get it done. Trust me.
All right.
Joe Louis Southern Kitchen is what it's called.
Joe Louis Southern Kitchen.
All right.
Cool. Hey, excellent. You're gonna have to let me know more about that. We'll get our people in there to help you out.
Absolutely. I think you'll be. So the owner, my partner, is he owned New Center Eatery, and he's got a Sweet Magnolias, and he's got 18 restaurants, and so I think I've got the right partners. The menu's fantastic, and we're going to use the bourbon to make the most amazing bourbon pecan pie.
Hey,
yeah. So
I'm in.
I think we're doing okay.
Right on.
Rock on.
All right, you guys, we'll do it again next Tuesday.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Next Tuesday.
ManCaveHappyHour.com, JoeLouisBourbon.com. Everybody, thank you for hanging out.